This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob Rees-Mogg is officially preparing to replace Rishi Sunak as the next Tory party leader. Well, things are getting excited again in the Conservative Party. On the one hand, there are still a big chunk of people who've completely given up on Toryism. And there are some who are still a bit hopeful, saying, if you could get your Rees-Moggs, your Lee Andersons, your Kemi Badenochs, these guys, or even Suella to an extent, to be in charge, then maybe we would consider seeing if we could support the Conservative Party again. But that is a big if. The biggest update is now that Jacob Rees-Mogg himself, following the fall of Boris Johnson, even at the time, especially when it started a year ago, and then a few months later, we had Liz Truss for about 10 minutes. Then we had Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt's coup. He actually was considering to run at the time, but it didn't happen. One of his sources said that Jacob thought about running after Boris overnight, but decided that his loyalty to the Prime Minister meant that he had not put a team in place to be able to win a contest, while others had. Also, Liz Truss was quick out of the blocks, which meant that it was difficult for him to run against her. So this is one of the flaws of full-on loyalty, because even people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who still say they have their own principles, but they don't want to just completely be rebels for the sake of it. So he was a good team player in Boris's cabinet, even though he had massive fights with the cabinet. He disagreed with a lot of key policies, but he still remained in the cabinet. The problem with that is that if the time comes that there's an opportunity for you to take charge or stand for party leadership in an election, you're not ready because you don't have a team. There's no base. There's no establishment. Whereas Liz Truss was preparing for this for years. And the funny thing is, even though she was preparing for this for years and years, she still messed it up. So that was funny to see. But things could definitely change. As I said, there are those like Lee Anderson. There are those like Kemi Badenoch alongside Jacob Rees-Mogg. And as I said, maybe even people like Suella Braverman. They give a bit of hope to some of the grassroots of the Tory party. So because the grassroots of the Tory party, the membership overall, are right-wing. They're not like the establishment. But the problem here is that the Conservative Party is run by a centralised machine. The actual deep establishment of the Tory party, the CCHQ or the Conservative Party headquarters, they're never going to allow these guys to take over. So there is a massive disconnect between the Westminster Tories and the rest of the country. The hardworking volunteers, the grassroots members who are, some of them have already given up, they've left, they've defected to Reform UK. Some of them are still there because it's become a cultural thing. They don't know what to do. They can't just leave the Tory party. They could never imagine not being in the Tory party, even if they hate their party leader. But again, maybe that becomes a problem. That prevents any change in British politics. But we'll see what happens anyway. We will see if Rishi Sunak goes down and if Jacob Rees-Mogg attempts to replace him, and whether he succeeds or not. That's a whole different debate anyway. And whether he could turn the party around and make radical reforms. But that's also a different challenge. For now, Reform UK are leading the challenge against the nutters in the establishment. We'll see how that goes. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm Maya TC, and we are the media.